Greetings, Acolytes. As you can see from the thumbnail and video title, I want Warhammer 40k to have more space stuff. Probably sounds a bit weird to ask that the galaxy scale setting of Warhammer have more space stuff, but hear me out. We get spaceships and maybe a station or two, as well as planets and the mention of asteroid belts and stuff, but we never see anything, and we never get detail or stories on any of that. And today I want to talk about some examples of what they could implement or add, and how to make the void of Warhammer 40k feel more alive. First things first, let's talk about what 40k does give us to work with. We have spaceships, the orbital wings of Graia, and a few other Forge worlds which we never see, the mention of listening posts and astropathic stations, trade and defense stations which we never see except for a few pieces of art here and there, and the Battlefleet Gothic games, and the story gimmicks or plot point locations that only matter for a limited period of time because that's the focus of the current plot. Examples of this are the world engine from the Necrons or the Orc attack moons. We know most of these are there, and while fleets do get a decent amount of appreciation, we get very little of anything else. In a galaxy as alive and full of activity as Warhammer 40k, it feels like there should be more than a few stations that are either honorary mentions for like maybe a paragraph, or MacGuffin/plot point that only exist temporarily. While this is all fine and dandy, it doesn't really fill the space as I see it with life. The Imperium is a galaxy-spanning empire, the Orcs' hollow asteroids are fun, and the town Mechanicus are industrial powerhouses, and the Eldar have the webway everywhere. For everything that we get, it feels quite empty in the void of space. I know the realistic thing is space is big, it's also a big galaxy with interesting stuff going on already, but you can find examples of other implementations in other franchises of how to make space feel more alive. Stellaris is a great example of how to make space feel alive, even if you're just looking at maps. You can see and interact with the stations you place and how they affect the grand scale of your empire as well as others. They also have more than just the mining and research stations, but also the megastructures. If you know me, you know I love big anything. Megastructures, megafauna, mechs, even weapons. Now I'm not saying we need more Dyson spheres in Warhammer, because on a practical level, that would be insane. Never mind a matter decompressor, but I would like to see more stuff in general. Even in the Rogue Trader video game, many systems might have a single station or two, and that's a complete waste of potential in my opinion. Another example comes from EVE Online. While the Imperium's technology is often behind that of EVE Online, especially in its industry and FTL, EVE uses stations that make the game feel alive. Everything you interact with involves stations. Market stations, industry stations, mining stations, refinery stations, defense and territory stations, never mind the fact that moon mining is an active activity you can play with. While I don't think the Imperium should be spitting out a new Sotio every month, I do think that there should be more stuff happening, or to interact with, to play in a video game. The Rogue Trader video game is perfect for this, but it's completely lacking that aspect and possibility for the focus of being an intrigue game, which is understandable. Another good video game showing of making the vast emptiness of space feel alive and inhabited is Elite Dangerous, which also simulates a living galaxy. Despite its grand scale, it feels alive with all the interactions between players and stations. And there's a ton of variety in that too, and whole swaths of the galaxy left unexplored, although that's less of an argument here. But those are video games, and that's just one form of media. Okay, how about art books and game encyclopedias? I own both of the Halo ones, and the amount of detail they go into for even Forerunner ships is stunning. The fact that we don't even have a book like this for Warhammer 40k space stuff is kind of disappointing. I'll pay top dollar for a 40k space encyclopedia rather than another codex with snippets and a singular piece of art here and there. Of course, there are meta reasons we don't get any of this. Station stories make for good intrigue and horror books, or maybe a temporary location for a grander plot, but they can't really be the focus of anything interesting on their own to most people. The second reason is there isn't much demand for it. I'm just some nerd on the internet who bought a microphone and editing software. My personal wants and needs matter very little to Mr. James' workshop's concerns. So while these kinds of void structures do exist, and we do know about them a little, they never get much of a spotlight, which to me is a shame. Now you might be wondering, Sendrax, if you have all these gripes, how about you fix it? Good question, viewer, that I can't see, hear, smell, or touch. There's a few options, and they can span several types of media. Firstly, let's talk video games. Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 is the closest we get to seeing this in video game format, or Rogue Trader. But one's an RTS game and the other's an intrigue game. So while they can't have aspects added for visual effect, they don't really show us or contribute to the effect that I'm looking for. Now while an entire 40k galaxy would be a bit much, I think the Coronis Expanse or somewhere in the Calixtus sector would be a good option for a Rogue Trader MMO, where interacting with and managing these stations like EVE Online could be a major mechanic. Another video game option would be a station building game, where the Administratum assigns you one of a few kinds of stations to choose from, where you keep expanding and upgrading as time goes on. Make it something that's uniquely yours while still fitting in the 40k narrative. An option I mentioned before could be a proper encyclopedia or art book like Halo has. It could give a ton of overall lore to the setting, while also getting into the specifics of a lot of details that often get left out of the overall narrative. In this context, that would be more art in detail on different kinds of void structures each faction makes. Give me data on asteroid mining facilities, or maybe Mechanicus listening outposts. There's so much opportunity to fully flesh out something like this, and if they made it like the Guardsman uplifting primer, by framing it in a Mechanicus or Administratum sense, that would be incredible. Again, I would pay so much money for that, and I personally think it would sell super well. To add on to that, we don't see any void life either. Sure, there's void krakens, but we hear about them so little, and the only other living things in space are the Tyranids. But they're a major faction, so in my opinion, they don't really count here. But I would love a book about like void whalers in the Imperium hunting down some megafauna in space, like a space whale, or something as wild as the Stellar Devourer from Stellaris. The third option to contribute, which I think is simultaneously the least and most likely, would be a Warhammer movie or TV series focusing on life on a station, from the perspective of characters all across the station, like tech priests, citizens, the captain and commander in charge. It would be a great set for a 40k horror series, or even just a really messed up sitcom. While I think it's the least likely form of 40k media to be made, especially openly, I do think it's one of the more likely ways this aspect of 40k would be explored, rather than via something like an art book or video game. I'm sure there's stuff I've missed, as my knowledge of 40k is not all-encompassing. If you know of any good examples or art pieces of 40k's void being filled with stuff, then let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you have any ideas to how they could showcase this aspect in 40k that I feel is lacking, then let me know in the comment section as well. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I play EVE Online. My corporation is around 20 members, and we're looking for new people to join. Link to the corporation Discord is in the description below. We're new pilot friendly and focused on achieving personal goals in game rather than working towards corporation projects. Very freestyle. Most of us are industrialists, but if you enjoy combat or exploration, you're more than welcome. If you watched the advertisement and made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, please consider liking or maybe subscribing, as your support goes a long way to helping me make these videos. I stream weekly here on YouTube and on Twitch at twitch.tv/BrotherSenderax, link in the description below, from 4 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and take care out there.